welcome. We're back. How's everybody doing? Another day in the market. Highs, you're definitely in an uptrend, so it's literally good. Literally, I don't know why I say literally so much. You're literally fine on, that's so funny. I need to somebody clip that. Welcome. We are back. Shout out to Cheddar Freeze for the new intro song. Hope you liked it. But yeah, it's a Sunday stream. Getting ready for this week in the market. We got quite a few things to talk about, so make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Hope you got a snack. Hope you're relaxing. If you're over 21, maybe a drink. Maybe watch football today. Hope you all had a good weekend. But it's time to get back in to the swing of things. If you're in the Discord, I did host a free workshop yesterday, so it was cool to meet some of you over there. If not, well, you're in the stream right now. So what's up, everybody in the chat? We got Mal Cryo, sorry if I mispronounced that, JG, Michael, Dan, Jane, Medi, Cheddar Freeze, Spiderwebs, Thomas, Alien says, hey peeps, hope everyone had a nice weekend, ready for the trading week, let's get it. Sunny, KTF. All right, so everybody's hopping into the stream right now. But yeah, we got a few things to talk about. We're gonna start off with Bitcoin as per usual. People are hopping into the stream. Then we'll talk about the market. Stock futures are green right now. We'll see how they look in the morning. We'll talk about my thoughts on the market. Actually, a few things I want to update there. Talk about Clover, obviously, everything going on with Wyckoff options, just the technicals in general, my thoughts and everything going on. Got a lot of thoughts there as per usual. Might even talk about CCJ for a little bit. That one's been trending on Wall Street Bets. Really just going to share the supports and resistances on that ticker. There's not too much I can do apart from that. It's already been running a lot. Then we'll go over the ongoing trades. I'll talk to the chat, say what's up. We'll do take requests most likely if we have time. And yeah, that'll pretty much be it. Just kind of getting ready for the week. I mean, how many times have we done these streams where we talk about something important or we find something important and then we just talk about that the rest of the week? It's like on all the Sunday streams, it's typically when, for whatever reason, we find like the interesting things ahead of time, right? So we're trying to prepare ahead of time, and that's what you got to do as a trader. You can't just show up to the market without any clue as to what your plan is, right? You always want to enter each day with the trading plan, and that's really the point of these streams. So yeah, start off with Bitcoin. Still not much to talk about. I need more data. I need some sort of a pattern or divergence on higher time frames for me to really have a bias. I'm still pretty neutral here. It's just going sideways at the 200-day moving average after that flash crash. Maybe you could look at it as a little bit of a symmetrical triangle, or maybe even a bearish pennant, however you want to kind of look at it like that. I don't even know if that made sense, but however you want to look at it, maybe this would be one way. I just saw that it was kind of starting to create higher lows, but also lower highs. That's really it. I mean, the Litecoin trade is still around the entry. It was almost at the target, then it was almost at the stop. Now it's almost at the entry. It's kind of been all over the place. Hopefully you can get back above that neckline. And then for the overall stock market, what's going on? Well, first off, not a good time if you're looking at the weekly chart. Okay, the S&P, not the best candle setup here. I mean, just in general, there's a few different types of formations you can have looking like this. Where you have a large green candle, then you kind of have a mini candle at the top, and then you have a large sell-off candle. That 3 candle pattern in general, and I know there's a few different names and formations depending on how the candles look, but this 3 candle pattern in general is sort of a reversal signal when it comes to candles and candle analysis. Let's see if I can find anything that looks similar. Not really. I don't see any from those highs, but if we go over to the NASDAQ on the weekly, it did paint a bearish engulfing candle, so that's not good. These are important, right? Now for context, you see that this is a bearish engulfing candle. You know, this week's, or I guess last week's at this point, it opened higher than the week before and it closed lower, right? So it bearishly engulfed all of the price action from the prior week. The last time I see that we had a true bearish engulfing candle was up over here, okay? So same exact candle pattern heading into this week. The last time we really had it, it was back then at around all-time highs. And afterwards, from where that candle closed to the lows of the next week, or actually to the lows of 2 weeks after, the NASDAQ corrected about 10-11% within 2 weeks. So that's not the best candle pattern going into this week, especially since you were just overbought as well. Even on the daily, you have bearish engulfing candles because Friday was pretty red. So bearish engulfing candle on the NASDAQ. S&P, not necessarily a bearish engulfing, but you can definitely see it's kind of rolling over, kind of the opposite of a rounding bottom. It's kind of like a rounding top. The Russell 2000 had a bearish engulfing candle for all of you that trade small caps. The ARK ETF had a bearish engulfing candle for those of you who trade mid caps and growth stocks. So if you're looking at just the candle patterns, I don't think it can be argued. You know, it's bearish going into this week, just solely looking at candles. Candles are not everything, but you know, they can be important, right? So we had an inverted hammer, kind of like a reverse pin bar down over here, and that was a reversal signal to the upside. And then we kind of had a doji up here, another reversal signal with more bearish candles. It's just, they do play out quite a bit. I mean, looking at the ARK ETF going into this week, it could be argued that it's still just backtesting the breakout of this descending triangle. We've been talking about, you know, the bullish setup since down here, but now, you know, ever since they broke that 200-day moving average, it's kind of not been having a good time. You know, looking at the Russell 2000, it's really failing to hold that previous resistance as a support for right now. We'll see what happens tomorrow. The closest support on the Russell, at least for the IWM ETF, is 219. For the NASDAQ, kind of looking at it like an ascending broadening wedge. I know Mehdi also has this similar chart, I think. I don't know if other people do in the Discord, but I charted this a couple weeks ago. Just kind of looks like you have like this clear supply line up here and a potential demand line. We'll see what happens if it drops to it. But I would say going into this week on the NASDAQ, if it is a red week, this is the level, okay? 14,891. All right, that was your previous like 4-day high from the beginning of August. I think that's the first major support. After that, you got a gap fill at around 14.7K. Yeah, so, and then probably your demand line as well that I just charted. So those are the levels. You know, going into a week like this, I'm not trying to, you know, be scared of the market or whatever, but you are seeing red price action after a very, very long duration of just going straight up. So you can't act like, oh my gosh, there's no chance of this being the top. There's always a chance, right? And again, the probability is not the highest, right? It could still just make another higher low and run again. But you want to be able to kind of be not only offensive in the market, but also defensive in the market, right? You know, looking at the S&P 500, I really think like if you break this channel, it could be bad, right? A lot of people are going to be looking at this channel. If it does end up breaking at some point during the week, I think probably 43.70 is the most important support on the S&P 500 on the 4-hour chart. You also have a little bit of a gap fill at around 44.44. So really going into weeks like this, when we're coming off of a Friday that was red, when there is bearish sentiment, when the fear and greed index is at fear, the way I kind of look at things is like, who knows? Is this a good dip buying opportunity, or is this a place where, stocks might be down 5-10%, but maybe in 3 or 4 weeks they're down 30%, right? So there's no way to know ahead of time. I mean, you have a 50-50 chance of guessing correctly. But the way I look at it is look at your supports, the supports I just talked about for the overall market, and see how the indices react to each support, because traders all over the world are going to be watching the same types of supports. They're very, very clear. They're not hard to find if you have a good understanding of technical analysis or even a basic understanding. So really what I'll be doing this week is all these supports I'm talking about, right? So for the S&P 500, I'll be watching this gap fill. After that, I'll be watching 43.70. After that, I'll be watching the demand line of this channel. And if we're just blowing right through all these supports like they're not even there, that's when I personally take caution. Because if traders are just disregarding supports, that just means there's an overwhelming amount of fear and that people want to just still get out of their positions. So that's what I'll be looking at. I don't know if we're going to bounce off said supports, but I'll be watching to see how the market reacts to them. That's mainly my plan going into this week, and I'll probably be kind of trading around that, right? With stop losses and whatnot. And again, weeks like this, if we do have a volatile week, could be good opportunities. I haven't traded the SPY in a while because we've just been kind of on autopilot really ever since like May. So I really haven't felt like getting into puts on the SPY. And even just for calls, it's like, at any point it could reverse, and we already have seen it's been reversing for the past few days. So I haven't really traded the SPY too much in the last couple of months, but back in like really when we had that first dip in March, like right over here, like in this whole entire area, I was trading a lot of SPY contracts and QQQ contracts. So if we get a market where it's going to be hard to swing trade, I might start trading calls and puts on the S&P, on the QQQ, on the indices. So that's one of the plans that I like doing when things are volatile, instead of swinging stocks, because even if you find a good stock, it might just go down with the market. Instead of doing that, one thing I like to do is trade the indices just based on technicals. And I had good success with it back over here. I tried it within this channel and it wasn't too good. So I'm trying to see if we get some more volatility. I mean, speaking of taking a look at the volatility index, it did break above the 20 level. We talk about this all the time. When the VIX is over 20 is when I personally take caution. That's the area where you could see, twice, once in July of this year and in August. Once we got above 20, the VIX went all the way up to about 24.5 or 25. So above 20 is when I personally take caution, also we're above the 200-day moving average. So from a technical standpoint, this is a little bit of traders are kind of signaling that this is currently a risk off market in the short term at least, and we'll see what happens fundamentally. On top of all of this, we also have quadruple witching this week, which, for newer traders in here, that means we're going to have major expirations on stocks and a bunch of other things. So I don't know if there's a great correlation around, whether quad witching days are red or green. I think it just depends on everything else, but it can be important for certain stocks, because there might be, let's say, for an example, large funds in large call option positions that might want to exit. Maybe they want to exercise by stock. Maybe the opposite happens, right? So you could see some sort of portfolio management from big money this week, and in general, just September seasonality. So yeah, spending a little bit extra time covering the market tonight because there is a lot more to cover. I mean, for the past 2 weeks, it's kind of just been on autopilot, so I kind of just breezed through the market analysis. But going into a week like this, you want to keep an eye on all these things. I don't think this is a super important economic week. Obviously, a catalyst can happen whenever, but just technicals can be really, really important this week for the indices. And I want to kind of talk about that before we even talk about any individual stocks, because you might see a week where individual stocks just trade directly with the overall market. Whether we have super red opens and we go back over to green and stocks kind of track together. That's one thing, I don't know the future for sure, but I kind of do feel that this will be a very glued together week for the market. I think a lot of stocks are going to move together. Obviously there will be, needles in the haystack, but that's kind of my, I'd say, loose prediction for this week, but obviously we'll see. And that's really my market analysis. So hopefully that gave you some sort of, at least my thoughts going into the week. You can interpret that however you want. Not seeing too much of a change on the 10-year yield or the dollar. They're kind of flat. Dow Jones is also in this kind of rising wedge. It's at the demand line going into the week. It even broke this support level. If it breaks this demand line, I might be watching, I think the DIA is the ETF you can trade that on or trade this on, but I might be watching for potential puts on industrials, maybe in individual names. There's a lot of different opportunities could be opening up to either direction. Maybe dip buys in certain sectors, maybe puts in other sectors. But I still need the price action for more confirmation. I'm just trying to share what I'm thinking going into this week. So yeah, futures slightly green. We'll see how those continue to move throughout the night. And yeah, let me see what's up in the chat. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you all enjoyed that market analysis. You have a lot of September 17th expirations on stocks this week with quad witching. We'll see how that affects things. I don't have those many calls for this week. I have $10 CLOV calls for this week, but it's not a huge position at all. I just kind of left over some from last week. And then speaking of CLOV, we're going to talk about it next. I have CLOV calls for like this Friday, the Friday after. I think I have CLOV calls all the way up until like the middle of October. Like I kind of just split them up like a little bit per each week in terms of expirations, and I might just trade around them. I'm just, just kind of sharing what I'm doing. I'm not telling you to get into CLOV calls. I'm not telling you not to get into CLOV calls. You do whatever you want to do. I'm just sharing how I've been kind of trading CLOV. I just have a bunch of split up options. Pretty much like the further out my options are is like the more amount of money that there is. Like for an example, this Friday I have a decent amount, but not that much. And then the next Friday I have a little bit more, and then a little bit more for each Friday that goes on. That's not a foolproof method. Definitely I'm not really hedged, but I'm managing my risk and watching my position sizes. So that's how I've currently been just looking at CLOV. Personally for last week, my overall thoughts on CLOV, we're going to kind of get into. Let me take a look at the chat first, and then we'll talk about everything going on there. Got a few updates, especially when it comes to Wyckoff. I don't know why my charts are not really loading all like my drawings on them. Let's see. But hopefully the stream's all good. It's not lagging. There we go. And my music might be a little bit too loud. Let me put that down a bit. All right, that looks better. Okay. So yeah, keep hitting that like button, hit that subscribe button if you didn't already. We're just here preparing for the week. I love Sunday streams because we don't have to worry too much about, what happened during the day because there was no stocks that moved today. So we kind of just get to sit back and just analyze things ahead of the week. Sunday streams are typically like one of my favorite streams. It's a lot more kind of calm. There's not too much craziness going on. So I hope you all enjoy the Sunday streams. I know typically viewers are a little bit lower on Sundays because again, it's the weekend, but it's fun for me. So let's see what's up in the chat before we talk about CLOV. Cheddar Free says CPI data, job numbers, and quad witching this week. One final thing that I want to talk about for the S&P 500 is this. Somebody else on Twitter shared this, and I talked about it a few weeks ago. But do you see this orange line, this like orange moving average over here? I believe this is the 50-day moving average. So yeah, Cheddar Freeze just said if bear sentiment continues, we have the 50 moving average below. I believe this is the simple moving average. I just put on that indicator through TradingView, but look at this, okay? Somebody else noticed this on Twitter. Look at this orange line, okay? And look at all the lows on the S&P 500. Look at this low. This one, it didn't really work, but look at that low. Look at these lows. Look at this low. Look at that low. Look at all these lows that the S&P bounced off the 50-day moving average. That's another thing I'll be watching going into this week to see if it can bounce off of that again. So that's one final indicator that you could also keep an eye on this week for the overall market. But again, like I said earlier, stop trading blindly. I know there's a lot of people that ignore the overall market. They just trade individual stocks, and a lot of people get caught like that. They get caught, thinking that something's super bullish, and it might be super bullish, but then the market turns around and it just brings your stock down too. So start paying attention to the indices. If you were in the workshop yesterday, I spent a good 10-15 minutes talking about that. And I hope to do more workshops in the future. I can't do them every weekend. It's just whenever I have time, but it was a good time yesterday. So yeah, what else is in the chat? Silver says CLOV was just a giant pump and dump by Wall Street Bet last week. Yeah, it definitely, that was a part of it. Why invest in CLOV? I'm not telling you to do anything. You know, if you don't want to, don't do it. Or whatever you want to do, you do. Again, I'm not here to block out people who have different opinions than me. I open up my arms to different opinions. Like, you know, those are welcome here. I encourage everybody to share whatever opinion they have, and I'll talk about my thoughts on it. That's really all I'm going to be doing here. Jab Dab says 840 to 860 support range seems to be critical. We'll be talking about the levels in a second. Silver Shrimp also says, only thing about CLOV, there's more downside to upside, in my opinion. Just get in before the next Wall Street Bet pump is all it is. I really could care less about Wall Street Bets, but yeah, we're going to talk about everything. Michael says, all right, so IMEI says, I enjoyed the Calm Sunday streams. And then Michael also says Sunday streams are awesome. Thanks for helping the preparation. Appreciate both of you for those messages. Yeah, join the Discord, links in the description. Silver says, I would never buy anything that's run up 20% a day or that week, LOL. Again, you know, all these points that you're bringing up, they're your own opinions. That's completely fine. I'll be talking about my thoughts in a second here. So let's just get into it. First off, okay, this is going to be addressing a lot of people, from my messages to some YouTube video comments to people that have messaged me on Reddit as well. It's disappointing to me. It really is. It just kind of, all right, let me kind of put this simply. I've been, you know, heavily covering this WRXUSDT idea on Clover since the mid $7 area. Okay. Since the mid $7 area. That's when I started, you know, heavily covering the WRXUSDT spring idea. Down over here, you can go fact check me if you want. It's on my streams. It's on my Twitter. And that's when I started talking about the WRXUSDT spring. Okay. From that price, when we started talking about it, to the highs of last week, CLOV went up 51%. 51%. Okay, let me tell you how long it did that. In 20 days, CLOV went up 50%. Okay. If that's not anything, I throw my hands up in the air. I'm sorry. Okay. But I was genuinely surprised last week to see how many people were frustrated that CLOV went from 11 to 8, completely forgetting that it went from 7 to 11 first. Okay. I just kind of feel like maybe I'm the only one that cared about that move. You know, maybe a lot of people were FOMOing in when it only started happening, but personally, I started talking about it here. Okay. It's on the streams, and that's how I look at it. If a move from $7 to $11 is not anything to you, then I can't help you. You know, I tried my best day by day to walk everybody through what was going on with the WRXUSDT chart, and it pretty much played out perfectly up until 11 from 7. So that's the first thing I want to start off with, just straight up. Okay. I'm not here to try and predict short squeezes and gamma squeezes. I'm just here to share charts. So for everybody complaining and whatnot, you're looking for a different channel if that's the case, because I think that was pretty good. If you disagree, I'm sorry, but we're going to talk about what could be potentially happening next. But I just want to cover that first because it just seems like nobody cared at all. That's first off. Second off, you know, I was talking about a little bit personally earlier, and I do get the frustration, you know, for CLOV consolidating between 7 and 9 for like 2 months almost. It finally starts to look like it's breaking out, and then it just comes back down. I get the frustration there. I mean, even personally, I was talking about my position 10, 15 minutes ago, not the actual numbers, but I was saying like, I still have calls for every single, probably for like the next 5 or 6 weeks, I have calls for each week. And again, don't blindly follow me. I'm just sharing what I've been doing, but I could be wrong. I could lose money. Okay. All I'm saying is, you know, last week on Tuesday, that was probably one of my top 10 days ever. So, you know, I get the frustration there. On Tuesday, I probably took about a quarter of the profits I could have taken. So I do understand the frustration. I still have 75% that I didn't take profits on. And I get the frustration, you know. I still was able to make a good chunk of profit off of that move to 11. If I would have took out all my profit up here, it would have been a large chunk, but I didn't. But again, I'm not complaining because there was still money made this whole entire way up. So I just want to start with that before we get into everything else. Let's talk about the price action, everything last week. And I just want to start off with that because there's a lot of people thinking I only started talking up here. Like, no. I didn't just start talking about it when everybody else did on Wall Street Bets. We've been talking about it since here. So I want to start off with that. But yeah, you had a lot of chatter on Wall Street Bets last weekend. Then on Tuesday, CLOV was up 22%. And here's my thoughts on what happened. I think the day after Tuesday, Wednesday, was very natural. You had a major run up on Tuesday that in hindsight was definitely related to the Wall Street Bets catalyst. If you just look at the timing, it's very, very obvious. So you had a 22% move the day after it sells off. That should not be surprising. Of course, it could have, it maybe in another universe turned into that. But again, people will take profits. There's a lot of bag holders in this stock that still averages around 17 according to Webull's data. People will take profits, okay? People took profits the next day. And on this day, we talked about the bearish candle over here. On Wednesday night stream, we talked about that bearish candle and how you had that inside day. And then the day after on Thursday, I also think was natural up until the close. So Wednesday and Thursday, I think were both natural days. CLOV just pulling back and retesting previous areas, right? That's what typically happens. Not typically, but that's a very common thing when you break out to back test your breakout, attempt to flip your previous resistances into a support. So these pretty much 3 days of market hours, no surprises to me at all. Then what happens? After hours on Thursday, price downgrade $7. That's a pretty steep downgrade because it was at 11. And I mean, at the time it was slightly above 9, but the downgrade was to 7. I'm sorry, I can't predict that. I cannot predict when a firm is going to come out with an upgrade or a downgrade. I don't have that information. And that happened, right? So going into Friday, you had a downgrade. And then you also had, I think, which was the cherry on top for the, negative 8% day for CLOV, a red market. So yeah, I think immediately at the open, CLOV gapped down a little bit. Like within minutes, it went and filled the gap. And I think that was around like $9.30. And then it just sold off. The whole entire market was selling off throughout the day. And there was a downgrade, the night before. So I'm not surprised. This whole entire part made a lot of sense to me. And this part, I didn't predict it. There was no way for me to predict it. But in hindsight, it also makes sense. You can't be surprised that it's going to be down 8% when there's a downgrade and a red market day. So that's my analysis from last week on CLOV. Just to give an update there. And where are we at now? Well, one thing we were talking about on Wednesday night and Thursday night was the backup. And the backup started off very, very well, right? We had that 920 level as that previous resistance from right over here. It bounced off it beautifully. And then you bounced all the way up to 10. And then the next day, we talked about the backup on this night's stream. The next day in the morning went up to 10. Again, it went up like 8% in the morning or something. And I just feel like nobody cares. It's like, I don't know what to do. It goes up 22% in one day on Tuesday. Then on Friday, it's up like 8%. And nobody cares. But then everybody wants to complain when it goes back down. Like, those things are out of my control, right? And then obviously we got the steeper sell. And where does that put us at now? Well, still the backup. Now, is it a clean backup at this point? Absolutely not. The mixture of the price downgrade and the red market on Friday and just CLOV selling definitely ruined a perfect backup if you're talking about Wyckoff. Now, if we just kind of leave all this out, it could be argued that Wyckoff already played out. You had a beautiful range. It wasn't even on the daily. It was on the 1 hour, and it took you from 7 to 11, which is a move personally I'm happy with. I don't care if nobody else is. I will happily say that was a nice move. And now, can you still have a potential backup? Yes. Will it be the perfect backup? No. And I'm going to kind of show you a few different articles to explain that. But a perfect backup is pretty much what could have happened, potentially if there wasn't a price downgrade and let's say the market was green on Friday, right? If you just held above that 920 level, that would have been, a very nice backup. At this point, the idea of backing up off of the previous resistance is not possible. You broke under it, you closed under it. So here comes the next term I'm going to teach everybody about, okay, which is the creek, okay? Now, we were talking about this cup and handle, if anybody remembers over here. We were talking about that cup and handle. And remember that neckline? So you have this neckline. It was even the same type of neckline I was looking at the inverse head and shoulders with. And if we just look at this supply line, you can see once it broke out of it on the 3rd, it went all the way up to around 950. Then it came back down to back test it. I think that was on a Friday. That was the Friday before last week, if that makes sense. And then obviously on Tuesday, it gapped up right off the back test. I even shared, when it was back testing the breakout, I even shared that in the Discord. And then it gapped up the following week on Tuesday. So you have this green line over here. So this is the areas I'm watching going into tomorrow. You see this yellow box? That was the previous trading range you were in before the move up to 11. And then also within that box, you have that creek. Now, what is a creek? And why can you still potentially back up off of a creek? Let's pull out the articles. The first step is identifying where this range of values is located to find the halfway point of the advance that produced the jump. Wyckoff tells us that it is normal for an advance to be corrected with a reaction to the vicinity of the halfway point of the advance, okay? The halfway point is likely to be above the zone of values that represent the creek or in that zone. If the halfway point is above the creek, the backup is most likely to be completed between the halfway point and the top of the creek. If the halfway point is in the creek, the backup is most likely to be completed between the halfway point and the low point of the creek, okay? So not necessarily, you know, an optimal backup. An optimal backup is this, if we could have held 920, but again, the downgrade kind of overrides that. And so I always talk about how catalysts override technicals and how you always have to be prepared for everything. A lot of people hate on technicals because they don't understand risk management. If you want to trade how I trade, and I'm not making you do anything, you can't do one of the two only, okay? You can't just only have risk management but not use technicals on one hand, and then on the other hand, you can't just only trade technicals but not have risk management. This method that I've learned from, you know, very smart people like Mitch Ray, and then also Mitch Ray's learned from people like Bulkowski and Wyckoff and all these other legends and Carney. You need a combination. You have to understand there's not certainty, and that if for you to kind of trade like this with technicals, when there's catalysts that you cannot predict, you have to have risk management, okay? So you broke that, but here's what could potentially happen. Your creek, you could still potentially back up off the creek. This is when pretty much when there is not enough demand to flip your horizontal level of supply back into support. Once you break that, you still can look for your creek to be another potential backup area, which is this area I'm kind of highlighting here. So you can kind of see an example over here with these lines over here, where you initially jump across the creek and then back test it, just like we did. That's just like we talked about weeks ago. You jump across the creek, you back test it, and then it went right up. So the same level or same line of supply, right? Because all you're looking for in a backup is to flip a supply zone into a demand zone. Both failed to flip this supply zone into a demand zone, so you have your next previous supply zone as a potential demand zone, okay? There's your education on the creek, and that's the next area you'd be looking at for potential backup. If it does not bounce off of that, what happens? What have we talked about earlier? Well, there's two different ways to look at it. Either you could just say the Wyckoff has completed, it took us from 7 to 11, which is a very nice move, or you can go out to higher time frames and extend over your Wyckoff and look at this as an up thrust. So those are the two potential scenarios. And that's my thoughts on the Wyckoff update. Hopefully that made sense. But again, like I said, like 3 different times, 7 to 11 is a pretty nice move. Hopefully, you know, you can get a much larger move than that in the future. But I've never really, you know, wanted education to turn into like people having so many emotions. This is education. That is risk management. It's education, and I'm not doing this for everybody to be emotional. That's not how I trade. And if you want to succeed in this game, most successful people will tell you that you need to remove your emotions from everything. Okay. So here's the Wyckoff update. You know, another level that I'm looking at right here is just that 825, 830 level, which was kind of where you based off of at the end of August before the move to 11. And then even on the daily, you can see this 825 level. It was your low from over here. It was your support back on May 7th and May 10th. And it was like your 5-day support in the middle of March. So those are levels I'm watching, you know, under you. To the upside, $9, 920-ish, and then 10. Those are kind of your short-term resistances above 10. Then you got 1115, which we talked about last week. You got 1180, and then above 1180, you got 1320. Above 1320, you got 17. So those are all the levels. That's my thoughts on what's, you know, what it's looking like right now. And we'll see what happens, you know. Hopefully that kind of gave you a good update. Looking at the options, data, let's come right over here. It doesn't look like it changed too much on Friday. The 15s, I think either the 11 and 12's open interest might have gone down or the 15 went up, but I think that the 12 was at one point over the 15, if I'm not mistaken. But the 10 was already around 100,000 on open interest, so not too much of a change there. 17s have been like that. The 20 strikes, I can't remember if the 20 strikes used to look like this or not. And even like this, the 31, I don't remember if these ones are up here, even though those are not really crazy amounts of open interest, but just an update there on the options chain. So yeah, hopefully that was a decent update. Hopefully that all made sense. Not too much of any signals on the oscillators. On the 4-hour, you have potential hidden bullish divergence on the RSI if you make a higher low than these lows. And on the daily, also there's a potential for hidden bullish divergence on the RSI if you make a higher low than about like 820-ish. So potential hidden bullish divergence on the RSI, no potential divergence on the MACD, currently on high time frames. And then the 1-hour hidden bullish divergence, you kind of did break under this low over here, so that's kind of invalidated because you did not make a higher low, you made a lower low. So that's also kind of invalidated as well. Potential harmonics are, you have an XABCD movement. There are potential harmonics within that. It kind of blew past a few of them on Friday. In the morning, it was at some PCZs of harmonics, and it just kind of invalidated them on the increased sell-off. I was looking at this as one, but it's kind of a little bit too deep now, I think. I mean, it's at a 6 retracement from B to D, so I don't really think that matters at that point. Maybe even this could be looked at as a resistance going into this week. A break above could be interesting, and then also this whole entire movement maybe could be looked at as some sort of like a wedge. Just a few different things just trying to throw out there, whatever you want to kind of look at. And that's really the majority of the CLOV update going into this week. Yeah. Summary. I'm sorry if nobody else cares about 7 to 11, but it was pretty cool for me to see that personally. On top of that, these are the areas I'm hoping for bounce. I don't know the future. I don't know if there will be a bounce. That's what I'm hoping for. If not, then obviously you have $8. And we'll see. I mean, you also have to keep an eye on the market. That's why we were talking about the market. Futures are currently dropping a little bit. So let me see what's up in the chat right now. But yeah, keep hitting that like button, keep hitting that subscribe button. If you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. I mean, there's an endless amount of stuff there, from education to trade ideas. Nothing is financial advice, but just what other people are thinking, everybody else's opinions. Just opinions, not advice or anything like that. There's paid bots that you can get for free, and just so many different resources. Even yesterday we had a workshop. Workshops aren't going to happen every weekend, but once in a while when I have time, just like to do workshops. I did a free workshop yesterday. We had I think 30 people in it, and there was some issues with others trying to join. I think we had a little bit of a limit issue that I had to fix, but it was great. So yeah, just try my best to just share what I'm thinking, just educate on technicals and whatnot. So appreciate the likes. Got to 50 likes right now. If you're not subscribed, also we got to celebrate. We hit 3,400 subs over the weekend. We were trying to hit it on Thursday night stream, but we were a little bit shy. We did cross over the line. We jumped the creek on the 3,400 mark on subs. So vibes in the chat for 3,400 of you hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all so much. Let's see what's in the chat. Jab Dab says, people have very unrealistic expectations with these short squeezes. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think a couple weeks ago on the stream, I was saying that, the short interest on CLOV dropped. It didn't really look, this doesn't look like a short squeeze to me. If there's going to be any sort of a squeeze of CLOV, again, I always say when you have a squeeze, the first part of the formula is always price action and volume. You did have that on Tuesday, but you didn't have that on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You need sustained volume, right? And even over a short squeeze, I mean, just in terms of the official short interest, it's okay. But I think if there's any in the future, any sort of a squeeze, I think, again, this kind of needs the option chain to stay the same way it is. So I think a gamma squeeze is still a little bit more likely. Again, I mean, does it really matter so much? What matters more than, gamma and short interest and all that is just the actual price action, if there's going to be more demand than supply. But of course, those things can come into effect when larger moves occur. But again, I'm not here to have a magic wand, try and predict every little thing. I'm just using probability, JabDab says, people complaining about a 50% jump in price action new to this game. Yeah, I mean, it was just weird to me to see how, you know, I'm talking about this from $7, it goes all the way to 11. I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody's gonna, you know, be going crazy. It was such a cool move, and it's just like crickets. I'm like, okay, well, tried my best. IMEI Repair says, champion analysis is the best. I follow a few people, but I find your knowledge flows smoothly, and I'm going to be becoming a premium member. Awesome, glad to hear that. And people will always have hate and love, so don't worry. Appreciate that. Thank you very much for the kind words. Holiday says, you're fine, champ. CLOV YCOF market overall, you're killing it. Thank you. What else? Just trying to see what's up in the chat. Mr. J Long 5000 says, geez, I learned something new every stream. Glad to hear that. That's the whole entire goal. Sad Kangaroo says, fun fact, the guy who put in the $7 price target for CLOV also told people to sell Tesla at 300 in 2020. Oh gosh. AONO, the workshop video is not public. I didn't record this one because it was like available to everybody. I recorded the premium one we did a few weeks ago, and that is on my channel. It's in the free course. So if you didn't watch that, you can still watch that. But the one from this weekend was not recorded. All right, CCJ. Again, this is not me telling you to buy a stock after it just went from 15 to 24. You know how I roll. If I were to be, and again, I'm never going to tell you to buy anything, but if I were to be looking at this as an actual swing idea, I would have been looking at it over here. Unfortunately, I really wasn't looking at it here. Maybe I looked down the stream and I just didn't really, think too much about it. But again, another time where Wall Street bet stock goes insane, but there actually were textbook bullish technicals days before the move, falling wedge, classic bullish divergence on the MACD and the RSI. Surprise, surprise, it happens again. The self-fulfilling prophecy on technicals, and yeah. But yeah, I mean, this one's been going crazy. I know a lot of people have been talking about it. The levels didn't save. I charted some levels before the stream. That's really all I can do. There's not much of any pattern on the daily. There's not much of anything else. I'm just going to be looking at the levels right here. There actually is a little bit of hidden bullish divergence on the weekly, but again, it is overbought on the daily, and it's actually just about getting overbought on the weekly. So yeah, just charting some longer term levels here. That's, again, I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just sharing this. I've been getting a lot of questions about it. These are the levels I kind of see on this chart. I don't know if it's going to be going up. It's going to be going down. I have no clue where this is going. I don't have any bias towards this. I'm personally not trading it. Just sharing levels. Historically, $26 is a high from 2014. $31 was your support in 2008 and 2006. Even a resistance in 2011. 36.78 is a weekly gap fill in terms of support. I mean, it just went from 17 to 24. If you're going to be looking on the weekly time frame, it's like 17. So I mean, that's completely up to you. All I'm saying is, on the weekly time frame, the closest support I see is 30% lower. So again, I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I'm not telling you not to get in. I'm not telling you to get in. You do what you want to do. I'm just sharing supports and resistances historically. I just like doing this sometimes when there's like trending tickers, because I got a lot of questions about them, and that's really all I can do, at this point, so just some levels on this one. If you're making money here, congrats. You want me to take a look at BBIG repair? Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Probably the same thing there. Can't really look at any patterns or divergence on the daily. This thing just went from 2 to 12, Based on how I trade, I don't like chasing these types of things personally. I know there are a handful of times when these moves, like on AMC and GameStop, actually turn into much larger moves. But again, that's like maybe 5% of the time. 95% of the time when you get a move like this, there's going to be some sort of a retracement. So we'll see. I mean, again, we were talking about BBIG down here. Did I call that it was going to go to 12 or whatever? No. But there was, again, a falling wedge with classic bullish divergence on the daily prior to this move. Obviously, there's a lot of hype around it. I think it's just a matter of however long the hype lasts. In terms of levels, these are kind of your levels on the chart. You can just take a screenshot if you want. So I don't know which level it goes to next. I just think that these are the levels historically. So yeah, it is overbought on the daily. I think there's bearish divergence on the 4-hour RSI, but who knows? Again, I don't really know how much these technicals matter. I think it's just more of a question of however long the hype lasts on names like this. Futures, NASDAQ futures were green, but now they're pretty much completely flat, so those have actually retraced throughout the duration of this stream. So yeah, I'm not really doing take requests just yet. We're going to be doing those in a little bit. I was just kind of answering some questions. Sean says, looks like AMC is about to explode. Any chance we'll drag CLOV and all the squeeze family up? I have no clue. There has been correlation earlier this year with meme stocks running together. Will it happen again? Again, I don't know the future. I'm not here to try and predict the future, but yeah, I mean, AMC has been on a nice run. I know Cheddar Freeze, we're sharing some, I believe, some lotto ideas on Friday, and those worked out pretty well. And even, during last week, I was sharing this ascending triangle with the premium members as it was developing, and then I ended up breaking out on Thursday afternoon, and then you got a nice fall through on Friday, and then it went right up to that resistance. I talked about this resistance weeks ago, $51. It was the previous support from June, and that was resistance, at least for Friday. We'll see what happens this week, but again, this thing just went up almost 60%, right? Based on my personal trading system, I don't personally like chasing things when it comes to swings. So yeah, this was alerted to premium members down at $33, and as of Friday, it actually hit the second target. So 56% profit in about like a month for premium members on this trade. Yeah, so even on the stream, you don't have to be a premium member. I did bring this up on stream. I didn't share the actual trade idea, but I did share that I was breaking out of this wedge with hidden bullish divergence on the daily. It was back testing the wedge, had a bullish pin bar. We talked about all these things in the low 30s, and now it's up at 50. So there you go. Technicals yet again doing their thing. So nice move there on AMC. But yeah, there obviously is that momentum behind it again. We'll see what happens or not. You never know. What's up, Matt G in the chat? Keep hitting that like button. Let's get to 60 likes right now. If you're not subscribed, help us get to 3,500. It's crazy for me to think that. I mean, I would have never thought a year ago I'd be saying let's get to 3,500 subs, but we're not even 100 away from that. So that's super cool to say. Help us get to 3,500 subs. We're like right there. So yeah, let me just quickly go over the ongoing trades before we do take requests. X, it was actually up 1%. On Friday, it was actually up a lot more in the morning, but then it sold off with the market. I mean, the market was red, but it got a lot more red in like the final half an hour of the day, or final hour of the day. The X trade is still up about 2-3%. Hidden bullish divergence is actually starting to develop on the daily. It did backtest the handle breakout again. This is a 3-year long cup and handle. I wish that it hit the first target initially when it went up like right away. Fortunately, it was a little bit shy of doing that. So I just want to see X hold 25 for the short term. You see it was a low over here, a high over here, a high over here, a high over here, a low over here. So 25 is like the level I'll be watching. Neo still looks like it's potentially backtesting the falling wedge, but a lot of stocks did the same exact thing on Friday. A lot of stocks put in a bearish engulfing candle on the daily. The overall market did that. So pretty close to a bearish engulfing candle. Might not be perfect, like if you really zoom in, but pretty close to a bearish engulfing candle on Neo. We'll see. Hopefully you can get back above 40. It's just, again, the market's pulling a lot of these things down. I don't know how long it's going to be till I share a new swing idea, but for how things are looking right now, it might be some time. I talked about this last week, but we had a good 2-3 weeks of swings up until like last week. I might just kind of shift back in towards day trades for the short term until I get a little bit more of a clear signal for the market. The DOC trade, I mean, this is down 1% since the entry. This has done absolutely nothing. Hopefully it can just hold above 18. The BLNK trade, it's pretty much at the apex of this triangle. So we'll see which way it breaks out, most likely this week. I think it has to break out one way or the other. I mean, maybe not. We'll see. Maybe it just completely fills it. But another bearish engulfing candle. Again, this just kind of happened across the board because that's what the market did on Friday. So hopefully this can just stay above like the stop loss. I mean, that's really what I'm going to say at this point. The BlackBerry trade just backtesting the 200-day moving average. MACD crossed back over to red. It says earnings are on the 22nd of the month according to TradingView. Go fact check that if you want. And then these other trades that already hit the target, the casino plays. Didn't really get to the second target, starting to pull back. We'll see what happens. It's already hit the first target. This is already up like 18% since the entry. And then win. Again, a lot of things were trying to break out. Neo was trying to break 40. Blink was trying to break 33. And then the market just said nope for now. So another bearish engulfing candle on win. It already did hit the first target of the trade. But would like to see this hold above 102 if possible. It was a support back from 2019. We'll see though. That's really the update. Yeah. So hopefully you're enjoying the stream. I guess now we could just run into ticker requests. So yeah, if you requested a ticker before, just drop it in again. So I want to make sure you're still here. But yeah, don't request anything that was up over 30% on Friday. Don't request anything that IPO'd within the last month. I'm looking at all of these ticker requests in the eyes of a swing trader, not a day trader or a long-term investor, in the eyes of a swing trader with technicals. I don't know anything about most of these companies fundamentally. So I'm just looking at the charts on the daily and the 4 hour, seeing if there's anything there. If not, I move on. Nothing I say is financial advice. So yeah. I don't see ADXS in TradingView. Brandon. OTCs are typically hard to chart. I also want to, I'll look at OTCs, but most of the time all I can do is just look at levels on them. I don't like, most of the time I look at OTCs, it's like hard for me to find patterns and stuff just because of the volatility. Did you mention BTC bear flag? I talked about a 4 hour bearish pennant, if that's what you're talking about. BIH, we can look at it. But lump, this is what I was looking at on Bitcoin. If this is what you're talking about. I call this a bearish pennant, because you do have like that pull before it. I don't know if, I guess you maybe could. Thing is, I would call it a flag if it looked like something like that, But, you could have your own way to call things or name patterns. Zev, this 1030, it was support in March of this year, and it's where your 200-day moving average is. I think I looked at this recently, and I talked about the same exact level, and yeah, it's been using it as resistance, not a surprise. If it breaks above it, then, the next resistance after that's 12. Historically, it's just the question of if it can or cannot break above it. You do have hidden bullish divergence currently playing out, but that confirmed a while ago. That's really all I got in terms of support. 940-ish and then like 857. Those would be levels I'm looking at. Snow. I don't know. It's really hard for me to tell. I think maybe if it gets above 330, it could see 360, but it's still under 330. So if it can't do that, then your support's 304. You do have hidden bullish divergence on the daily, but it was slightly overbought last week. It's RSI's pulling down a little bit now because I had a red day. Really not much of an update here on Snow. It's kind of looking the same as last week. Kodak, another stock that had a bearish engulfing candle on Friday. So many stocks did. So you got that, but it still is above this 693 historical support. If it can hold that, then great. If it can't, then I guess there's another one down at like 637 from this low and this low. There was some classic bullish divergence. Actually, there technically still is. Hasn't done much though on the daily. Maybe a little bit of like a falling wedge could be starting to form here. Like that. That's pretty much all I got on Kodak. And then like 785 short-term resistance. CLF, the way I have the channel charted is potentially could be breaking to the downside here. It had a fake out earlier. I don't know if it's gonna have a fake out again. Even apart from that channel, there's a descending triangle that you can kind of see like that. So hopefully you can just hold above 22.5. Apart from that, I don't really see much. That's really all I got for CLF. upsloping channel and then a descending triangle, like a mini descending triangle. I don't really see much. Well, actually, oh wait, no, it can't be divergence. It made a higher low on price. So yeah, I mean, OTCs, not really much I can do here. I don't know anything about this company. There's really nothing I can really chart. I don't know which way it's going next. I'm not saying I'm bearish or bullish. This is not really, my area of the market. So got to move on from that. MGNI 2386 is the strongest support I see from this low, and this low. It might just be in a range between 24 and 37. It's not a super well defined range, but that's kind of how I view it here. And it's right in the middle of it, so not too sure. And again, a lot of the time, and I know this might get boring when I look at some of these charts, I'm not saying I'm bearish or bullish, just a lot of the time when you're looking at charts, you're not going to get clear variables. That's just how things work, right? A lot of the time, maybe even most of the time, you're not going to get a clean read on the chart. It takes time to scan and scan and scan until you find a very solid probability chart or high probability chart. So that's just kind of how it is. And then even more so, like when the market overall is not really seeing bullish momentum, go figure, you're not going to maybe see as many bullish indicators, right? So that's just kind of how I'm looking at a lot of these stocks. It's just a little bit unclear to me. And that's just how I'm looking at the overall market in general, which is why short term, I'm not really looking at swings anymore. I'm really just kind of, I shift back and forth between, when I'm more lenient towards swings and more lenient towards day trades, kind of entering that day trade realm for the short term again. Not much I can do here. I don't see a pattern on the daily or on the 4 hour. This thing just went crazy. I already have the levels charted. If you want to take a screenshot, just go in parabolic. Again, I'm sorry if it's kind of being dry. I'm just not here to make up BS just to please you all. If I don't really see much to talk about, I just got to kind of move on, you know what I'm saying? And just because I don't see much doesn't mean it can't keep going up or it's going to dump. I have no clue. I'm just saying I don't know. That's all I'm saying. MICT. Well, there was classic bullish divergence down here. It's already playing out. It's trying to break above the 200-day moving average. Pretty deep of a handle to call this a cup and handle, but you definitely had a rounding bottom. And then I guess you're looking at maybe a descending broadening wedge. I wouldn't call it a cup and handle. I just call it like a rounding bottom into a descending broadening wedge. I'd say your current pattern is just a descending broadening wedge. You actually do have a partial decline over here, which means you have about a 70% chance of a breakout to the upside. Not 100%, but a 70%. And I think Bolkowski's textbook target for descending broadening wedge is just the top of the wedge. So 260-ish in terms of support. 174 is the cleanest support I see. So those are your levels, that's the chart. I mean, technically you do have classic bullish divergence playing out, but it's already been playing out. Dogecoin, it just looks like Bitcoin to me. It had the same flash crash as Bitcoin, and it's kind of doing the same exact thing on the 4 hour, which is just a little bit of like a symmetrical triangle, but it's more of a bearish pennant when you have a large flash impulse down before it, right? But also you technically did have a move back up, so it's kind of weird because I'd say Bitcoin definitely has a much more clear pennant rather than a triangle. But even on Bitcoin, it technically did go down, but then go back up before creating the pattern. So you could look at it just a triangle in general. It most likely just depends on which way it breaks out. Just whether it's a bearish or a bullish pennant just kind of changes up the probability slightly. But in general, for most triangle patterns, whether they're bullish or bearish names, all that matters is where they break out, right? Ascending triangles are technically bullish, but you can break them to the downside. Bear flags are technically bearish, but you can break them to the upside. Same for rising wedges. Same for a lot of these type of triangular patterns. All that technically matters at the end of the day is which way you break out, but they obviously can have probability biases based on the actual trend before the pattern and the actual lines of the pattern and how they upslope or downslope. VIH, I don't really know. I don't really know anything about this stock. From a technical standpoint, I don't really see much to talk about. And again, that's a lot of newer people in the stream think when I say I don't really see much or much to talk about. A lot of people think I'm bearish for whatever reason. Again, that's not me being bearish. It's not me being bullish. It's just me not knowing. Okay. And that's okay. Not know. You have to understand that most of the time you don't know. And technically you never know, because you're not trading with certainty. So I'm just trying to instill all of these ideas into everybody's trading psychologies, just trading psychology in general is important. Watch all of Mark Douglas's lectures, read his books and whatnot. So don't really see much to talk about here either. I hate saying this for a lot of the takers. It's just, you know, what can I really do here unless I knew something about the company fundamentally, which I don't. Unfortunately, I can't know every single company fundamentally. So as Cheddar Freeze is saying in the chat, no edge. Could see going either way. ABBV, this thing just had a flash impulse down. I don't know why. It's in between a support and resistance. Support is 102.3, resistance is 110. I don't enjoy streams when it's just like, I don't know. I could see it going either way, and I just say that for every single taker, but sometimes we just get streams like that, and maybe tonight's one of those ones. But other times there's streams where every single chart I'm looking at has like quadruple classic bullish divergence at the PCC of a Gartley. It's just, you know, it depends on how the stream's going, you know, it's maybe even how the market's looking in general. And one thing I also noticed is like when the market is kind of bearish, it's also a lot harder when I'm scanning over the weekend, because I share a weekly watch list with premium members every weekend, and it's just interesting. Sometimes when it's really easy for me to scan for a lot of, and bullish charts are just popping up left and right, and I have like a 30 taker watch list I share with premium members, and we have most of the time that's happened, we had like a great week in the market, and then vice versa. When I'm scanning for like an hour and a half and I can only find like 5 charts that looked somewhat good, then we have a bad week in the market. I just think there's just so much correlation that you got to think about, especially when it comes to technicals, because that's all you're doing, just trying to correlate things together with the psychology and the geometry of charts. So that was pretty much the first round. Let me see what's up in the chat. Where did I leave off? ABBV. All right. ADXS. Okay. Brandon says it's you being honest, champ, and that's why we keep coming back. Don't change. My voice just cracked there. Appreciate that, Brandon. Man, I don't know when my voice is gonna stop cracking. Like, it's been what, 4 or 5 years now? I mean, my voice used to crack a lot when I was like 15. It maybe happens like once or twice a week now, but it's just kind of annoying. WRX. A lot of cryptos just look the same to me right now. Same type of thing here. You know, technically I would call these bearish pennants, right? You have a bearish flagpole into a triangular formation with the lower highs but higher lows. So I would call a lot of these cryptos bearish pennants right now. But again, just because they're bearish pennants doesn't mean they're all going to break to the downside. Some might break to the upside. Maybe all of them do. You never know. So we'll just see which way these break out. But I think for right now, I just need a little bit more time to get more of a bias on how cryptos are looking. I just think I need a little bit more data. But you might actually have some hidden bullish divergence on the daily for WRX. And that's the majority of what I see. I mean, maybe this could also be looked at as a bat. Let's see. Yeah, it's maybe like an alternate bat. I don't know, not super clean. ADXS was up 28%. Technically, it wasn't up over 30%, like I say. So you might have got me there. I mean, again, it's up 28%. So there definitely is some sort of a supply line if you just chart these 3 highs, and then maybe just chart supports. That's really what I could do with this chart. It is overbought on the daily. In hindsight, there were, you know, better entry areas, like literally 2 days ago, because it was up 30% almost on Friday. So I don't know where it's headed to next, but those are the levels I see. I guess these highs could also be resistances. So those are all the levels on the chart I see for ADXS. Uranium has been going crazy. I think I saw a tweet about that. I don't know what the ticker for that is. I could probably just find like maybe futures on it. This is a global uranium ETF. Uranium futures. I don't know if it's the right thing to be looking at, but we could try it out. I don't even know if that's the right thing, but it says UXC uranium U308 futures. I'm not the best with commodities, but yeah, they have been going crazy, I guess. Charge point I view charge point at a make or break area right now. There is some sort of classic bullish divergence on the daily, and it's in this historical support area, right? You could see it's bounced every single time it's been at this area since March. Charge point has bounced off of it. Hopefully it can do it again. Otherwise, next support would be like 18. If it can't bounce off of this like yellow box I have. So that's really it for charge point. I just want to, see it bounce off of this area for the 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5th time or 6th time. So that's really the major level I'm watching right now in charge point. Smile Direct Club hit the PCZ of a bullish butterfly in a falling wedge with classic bullish divergence, but it rejected the supply line of the wedge. So it got close, but it didn't really confirm. So I don't know, maybe it potentially double bottoms at the PCZ of the butterfly and then it just breaks out right there. Maybe it breaks out tomorrow, maybe it just continues going down. But one thing I would like to see here in general is just higher highs and higher lows starting to develop on the daily. A little bit of a trend reversal. So yeah, I mean your support's like around 460, it's just your previous swing low, and then resistance is like this green supply line. ONEM looks pretty similar actually to SDC, long-term falling wedge. Quadruple classic bullish divergence on the daily is just testing this supply line. If it can break above it, you got a gap fill around 27 and a historical resistance. Then you got 30 after that as your next resistance. In terms of support, just this 21 to 22 area is the potential support area I would be watching on 1M. Looks very similar to SDC. I mean, maybe even a harmonic in here. Probably depends on whichever low you pick, but I don't know. That's probably not the best way to look at it. See if I can spot one. I mean, maybe the whole entire chart. I think that's going to be too high of a C point, though. It might just be a whole entire shark on the daily, like on the whole entire chart. And it bounced at the 886 roughly, and even kind of the 113 from B to D. I don't know. Z, another similar looking chart, another wedge with a harmonic. Already hit the first piece, or kind of randomly bounced at 1.80 with classic bullish divergence on the daily. Now it's somewhere at the demand line that I have charted here. I think this was on one of the watch lists I sent recently in premium. Might need a little bit more work though. I would like to see us get back above 92.93. Otherwise, 85 is kind of your next support. It's just potentially trying to, I mean, again, it's not really double bottoming yet because it's not really curling off of the support, but hopefully it can hold this and maybe start curling back above it, or not. We'll see. Moderna, there actually is hidden bullish divergence on the daily. This one's just kind of been going parabolic. I'd say 414 is kind of your support from this little resistance over here, and the next resistance is like 500-ish. It's a psychological support around your previous all-time high. We'll see if it gets there. That's really it. I mean, this thing's kind of floating up in space. LULU gapped up, I think, on earnings maybe. There also is hidden bullish divergence on this for the daily. So, I mean, that hidden bullish divergence probably wouldn't have confirmed if it didn't gap up. So that definitely did help. Support maybe around like these levels. Those are the levels I'd be watching for support. You obviously do have a gap down to fill now, but we'll see what happens. And not much of a pattern, after the gap. It's only been 2 days. URA is a good one. Okay, we'll take a look at that. Probably just to watch it for entertainment. But yeah, that'll probably be it for tick requests for the night. I think we covered a pretty decent amount. Hopefully that helped out everybody. So yeah, that'll probably be it for tick requests tonight. Yeah, that's pretty insane. I mean, is there some sort of a catalyst for this? Kind of is like a super long cup and handle. Look at it like that. It's really not a perfect rounding bottom. You get this rounding price action over here, and then kind of a handling price action over here. That. So scuffed. like a scuffed 6 here cup and handle maybe that it just broke the neckline up, but it is quite overbought on the daily. You know what I'm saying? Just in hindsight. Futures still slightly green, but not too much. But yeah, thank you all for watching the stream tonight. I'll look at those two and then we'll get out of here. But those are for real the last two. ATRO, let me go back to all. Look at ATRO and then we'll look at Fisker. And then we'll call it. ATRO, I don't even know if that's the best way to look at it as a harmonic, but let's see. What if I look at it like this? Close to a butterfly. 1618 would actually line up with this support though. Yeah, the 1618 PCZ from X to D and the 2618 from B to D would both line up with this 1162 support if it gets there. I don't know if it's going to get there, but that is a nice historical area. Was zero resistance in August of last year and support in December of last year. I don't really see much of a pattern. I mean, maybe you just do this. Downsloping channel. That's ATRO. And then Fisker, give me 12. Fisker, give me 12. I never want to see Fisker go down, but if it were to go down to 12, then you potentially could have, if all of this happens, okay, let's just delete all this. If all of this does happen, okay, let's say the MACD does something like this on Fisker. Potentially at 12, there is a chance. I'm saying this well in advance, but we'll see if it eventually does happen. If it does drop down to 12, there's a chance for potential triple classic bullish divergence on the daily. Depends on what the oscillators do then. With roughly a Gartley. I don't know. If it gets down there and if the MACD looks good and maybe there's some good variables on the 4-hour, could be a potential swing, but it's not there yet. So it's just in a weird area for me right now where 1455 is resistance, 12 is support. It's kind of in between them. So until it either breaks above 1455 or it gets down to 12, I don't really know if there's much for me to talk about. That's why I've not really been covering on the stream too much. It's just going sideways. There's not really much I'm seeing, but I look at it every single day. Whenever I do see something, I'll share it. And yeah, I think that'll be it for the night. Go ahead and end off with Fisker. Good luck to everybody in the market this week. Join the Discord, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Check out the links in the description. There's the course link in the description if you haven't watched that. There's premium if you want to join premium. There's the merch link and probably a couple others. I don't know. But yeah, check out the description and I'll be live again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. EST. Good luck trading this week. Hopefully you learned something from the stream. If not, try again tomorrow and I'll see you there. All right, peace out. Welcome, we're back. How's everybody doing? Another day in the market. Highs, you're definitely in an uptrend, so it's literally good. Literally, I don't know why I say literally so much. You're literally fine on, that's so funny. I need to somebody clip that.